I've really enjoyed it. It's been a cool book to read so far. I'm not quite done. I'm about 3/4 of the way, but just seeing that entrepreneurial mindset in the construction world is something I think that we definitely need to see more of.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's all about supply and demand, and that's what I always talk about. You should use that marketing force to your advantage because it's undeniable. The power of supply and demand is something that you can't run away from. I mean, unless you try to find a way to manipulate the information and it's incorrect. There are so many millions and millions and millions of jobs out there that people can start and quickly turn into their own, entrepreneur path. And where supply is low and the money, or I'm sorry, where the supply is low and demand is high, that's where the money goes. And I think that's what people need to understand and take advantage of at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and the supply and demand's only getting greater. And the reason I love seeing something like this coming out is, something I've been saying, hundreds of people, thousands of people probably been saying, is the supply and demand for skilled work is only becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger demand and less and less supply. And I think that more people just need to realize that they have a huge opportunity set in front of them in the coming years if they just take some time to learn a skill.
Well, sure. Back when I was in high school, and we're talking about, the early 80s, you could walk down the hallway and you could see shop classes happening. You could see someone changing a transmission on a Mustang over here. You could see someone, building a leg for a table over here, someone operating a metal lathe over there, or welding or wiring an outlet or doing someone's hair or whatever. You could experience those things, and you could almost accidentally discover how cool it was to be in the trades. And obviously they took their shop classes out. In a lot of cases, they replaced those rooms with computers. And I understand we need to learn computers. I get all that. But why couldn't we have had both? Why did it have to be one or the other? So what you did is you eliminated that possibility for millions of kids to discover that. So that takes all those incoming kids that would go into those trades off the table, right? And then, of course, with the advent of technology, when I was younger, we went out in the backyard and we built a tree fort. Yeah. Lumber, hammer, nails, whatever. Now they're building, cities on Minecraft on their cell phones, and that's just not the same experience, as you know. So you have those two things with the fact that colleges are really, really good at shaming people into saying if you don't go to college you're never going to amount to anything, and it's like the perfect storm working against blue collar trades, but people are starting to realize that, and I think the people that are the contrarian thinkers, right, they're the ones that are saying, wait a minute, if everyone's going this way, maybe I should go that way. And they're finding some pretty lucrative careers that are going to be long-standing, financially rewarding for them.
Yeah. So, what is it exactly that you do that your company does?
So I started out when I was 15, working for a company that basically dug ditches. I mean, we fixed old, rotten, smelly basements, okay, that were full of water or whatever. And you dig a lot of ditches to get water away from those buildings and make them dry and comfortable and safe and healthy. And we started out doing that. I worked actually in the field, digging ditches in the summertime when I wasn't in high school, and in the wintertime I'd work in the office after school. So I kind of got to I figured it out how the business ran. And when I was 18, I had to decide, was it college or was I going to go continue to work? And so they came to me and they said, we're going to start opening franchises of our office around the country because our company was growing so big we couldn't possibly reach to Chicago from Cleveland or Columbus or Cincinnati. So I spent the next 3 or 4 years opening franchises from scratch and learning how to build a business from nothing. And that was good training. It was kind of like, college 101 for building businesses, right?
Yeah.
So I did that until 1986, and I got, you get tired of traveling, living out of suitcases in cheap hotels, and so I opened up my own company in 86 and started with 6 people, and I think we have nearly 200 today. So we get involved in a lot of different construction type things, and it's been a hell of a ride.
Really? Where are you guys out of?
We're out of Northwest Ohio at this point.
Okay, cool.
A little town called Toledo, which is just out on the west end of Lake Erie.
Yep, nice. So you guys are are you still basically doing basement work, or what type of work are you involved in now?
Oh, we do it. I mean, we build houses and developments, and we do office buildings, and we still do a heck of a lot of foundation work and basement work for sure. And we got into construction supply stuff as well, and it's been great because I've been able to diversify, but kind of in the same lane that I'm in on. So it's not like I went out and opened something that I had no idea what it was. But it did allow me to invest in these other situations that I was mildly familiar with, and that worked out well.
Yeah. So at 18 years old, basically, you were tasked to buy a company, and they said, go open more divisions for our company, right? So obviously, I mean, that's better than a college education. You're playing with somebody else's money. So you're still taking the risk, I guess, in your own life, but you don't have quite the financial risk as just going out at 18 and starting a company, because you're kind of gambling with someone else's money, I guess. But what were some of the struggles that you saw at that age trying to do that?
Well, the obvious ones were just who I was. I mean, I was 150 pounds soaking wet, and here I am in Chicago having conversations with union plumbers that were 6'2", 250, telling them how I wanted things done. So there's just the obvious of that, okay? Because they didn't like the electricians didn't like the plumbers didn't like the framer. I mean, everyone was stepping all over each other, so it was nuts. The biggest thing for me, though, was someone had told me a long time ago. They said, think of it this way. You've never built a battleship before, but if you had, the first thing you would probably do is what? And I would say, well, I'd probably find someone to draw the plans for a battleship. Okay, good. You never built a battleship before, but if you did, what would be the next thing you would do? Well, common sense says I'd probably have to find a boat shipyard that builds these big things. And then you just keep going from there. You need to find metal, and then you need to find the steel, and you need to find the fittings, and you need to find the electrical systems, and then you need to find the munitions, and you need to find all these things. And if you just keep repeating that phrase over and over, pretty soon you've actually built the battleship, okay? Yeah. And so in the book Bluecollar Cash, I changed it to skyscraper because that's my business, construction. So I just go through life thinking, well, I've never built this before, but if I had, what would it be like? And that kind of takes a lot of the fear away. You're still going to have challenges, of course, but if you know what you want it to look like in the end, and that's basically what the book's all about, you can kind of get there a lot easier than if you have no clue and you just hope something happens when you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, you just break it down piece by piece by piece. Instead of looking at the big picture and going, whoa, I can't do that. You just break it down piece by piece by piece. And in your book, you really give a lot of great examples of doing that, whether it be financially or building or what have you. That's really just all life is simplify the process.
Yeah, it's funny because if you looked at my desk right now, I have a little sticky note on the bottom of my screen that says simplify. And it's been there for a very, very long period of time. And I think that's just such a great point because so often we live these lives where, it's kind of an if then, okay? If I go to high school and if I get good grades and if I get a scholarship and if I go to a college and if I get a degree and if that degree gets me a job and if that job pays well, then I can start living my life as if that's the end. It's completely the opposite that the way I feel about it. And I think you need to figure out what you want your life to look like first and then find the many different ways to get there, only one of those paths being college. Because in the end, you don't necessarily live to work. Right. In the end, you work so that you can live. Well, can we define what living looks like to each one of us? Because it's different for all of us. But let's start with the live part and then work backwards from there. and again, pick one of the many ways that we can to get there.
Yeah, yeah, I like that a lot. So in your book, you talk a lot about comfort, peace, and freedom. Tell me what those three words mean to you and why you chose those three words to pretty much define the end goal.
Yeah, I had several motivators when I wrote this book. One of them was, unfortunately, my daughter got sick when she was 12, and she was pretty ill, and it was a tough 5 years for her mother and I. I mean, for her specifically, but for my wife and I, it's scary because you're watching your daughter go through something that you wouldn't want anyone to go through, and so I remember being in a lot of waiting rooms and hospital rooms and radiology rooms and those kinds of things, and you begin to think about, well, what's important? Like, what's important in your life? What should I tell her if I could write her a long letter? What would I tell her that you should be chasing in life? Like, what should you be after? And well, I think you'd want to be comfortable. You'd want to be comfortable. You'd want to be at peace with who you are and what your life looks like. And you'd want to have basic freedom. And I don't mean freedom from tyranny. I mean freedom like to be spontaneous, to do the things you want to do. So comfort, peace, and freedom just kept showing itself over and over and over. And I couldn't get rid of those words. So I decided to build the book kind of around that because, not everybody, if you give them a vision board and say, draw your life, not everyone's going to put mega yachts and 15 cars and mansions and everything else, right?
Right.
People are going to live the way they want to live. And I give some examples in the book that way. So I think because it's so unique to each one of us, what your life could look like, I think it's so unique that we need to just give ourselves the ability to say, well, what would gain those things for you? What would make your comfort, peace, and freedom? What does your nirvana look like to you? And what would your perfect life be like if you could literally draw it out? And so I kind of surrounded the book around those terms and, kind of push it through that way so people understand what's really important.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So whenever you're trying to achieve those three things, let's just start. I mean, obviously you have employees, and I'm sure that those are three words that you probably teach avidly to your employees. How do you get them to understand and set what comfort, peace, and freedom looks like to them and get them to work towards it?
Yeah, great question. So you just have to start small. I mean, I'll give you an example. I have a vision board here. It's a huge black glass board, and people can go up to this board with these neon markers, and they can write on there what they want, what they're after, and it can be anything from, I want to go to Italy to visit my relatives, or I want to read 3 books a month, or it might be I want to pay off this, or I want to buy that, or save for this, or whatever. And it's very specific and it's very defined, and it's the detail is there. Well, all you have to do is get somebody to do that once. And I had this gal, I was helping somebody else, I was celebrating one of the goals that they achieved, and this gal walked down the hallway and she said, she was new to our company, and she said, that's really cool that you do that. Someday I'm going to make that happen. And I said, seriously, you just use the word someday? I mean, because someday never comes, right?
Right.
So I said, let's do this. Let's by Monday have you come up with a goal that you want to hit. And she walked in, she said, okay. Monday morning she came in, she goes, I really feel bad. I borrowed $2,500 from my dad to buy this car, and I never got to pay him back. And I know he doesn't really want the money back, but I feel like I really want to pay him back because he struggled and whatnot. And I said, okay, well, can you save, X amount of dollars per week? I think it was like $42 a week. And she said, yeah, I can do that. And I said, okay, so you'll have them paid off in a year from now. And she looked at me like I just invented penicillin. You know what I mean? Like I just built a rocket or something. And it's just so simple. And what's funny was she wrote it on the board, start date, end date, how much she was saving per week. She went to my payroll office and she said, deduct this from my check and don't let me see it. I want to hide it somewhere I can't get to it. And 3 months went by, and 6 months went by, and a year went by in a flash. And she surprised her dad with that check for $2,500, and he was blown away by it. And she was so incredibly proud of what she had done, and she wanted to thank me for it. And I said, hey, listen, all I did was point you in the right direction. You did all the work, right? So yeah, once you do that once with somebody, they tend to become this self-sustaining, goal-oriented machine. And for all the business owners out there that might be listening, you definitely want to create as many people around you that think like that, because they will help you run your business way further than you can take it yourself.
Yeah, I think that's so important too. I actually had a conversation with a company not too long ago. A similar thing. I said, you should really take some time to invest in the financial education of your people. And they said, why would we do that? And I said, most people don't have any sort of financial education background. They don't know how to use money. And they said, well, that seems like their parents should have taught them that. The school system should have taught them that. Why should we as a company take the time to teach them that? And I said, they're playing with your money every single day, whether they're a laborer or whether they're a high-level executive. You should want your people to be financially smart.
It's so funny that you say that, because I just had an office, a CEO of a company call me, and because of what we're talking about right now, he saw my interview on Tucker Carlson on Fox News. We did an hour-long sit-down on Fox Nation. And once he saw that, he said, I need you to get that information that you're talking about out to all of my employees. Well, then I'm asking him, well, how many does he have? He has 100 offices, each with 10 or 12 employees in it. So he wants them to have not only my book, but my course, which talks about the exact same thing we're talking about, for like 600 to 800 people or more. And I think it's so important, because you, as a business owner, you can't do it all. I mean, you can try to be a hero and work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and maybe that's your measuring stick for how successful you are, but it shouldn't be that. Your measuring stick should be, how far can the people that work within your organization drive that company almost irrelevant to what you're doing, so that you get the chance to plug yourself in if and where you want to, rather than being so plugged into it that you don't know what's going on all around you. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's a bitter pill to swallow, because some people relate how much they do during the day as to their value within the company. And it's just that's just a no-win situation there.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever you have these people come in, I mean, do you do that with every employee? Just break down some of these goals and kind of the financial stuff and other goals, I guess, too. It's not just money that you can whittle away like this. But do you do that with all of your employees?
Every one of the employees has the option to do it. Some do it, some don't. I will tell you a secret, that the successful people, the ones that are all managers of the company, all have always done it. So if there's a connection there might be something to that.
Right.
But some people are private, and they want to leave their stuff to themselves, and that's fine, as long as they can tell me that they are working on something. That's what matters, right? Okay. And other people are just really good at it. They do it once, and they're like, okay, cool, I got this. And now they're on their 5th, 6th, 7th goal, and their life is blossoming in front of them, and I get to watch that. And that's kind of what gets me out of bed every day, is not so much the wins of the company, but the wins of the people that work there, because that drives the company way further than I can do it myself.
Yeah. So, and I know you also talk about the entrepreneurial mindset for your people, which is basically being an entrepreneur inside of your company, having that entrepreneur's mindset, but working for you. Tell me what exactly that means and how you instill that in your people.
Well, if you can build a culture where people can say, you know what, I know I'm working for this guy or this gal, but I can get what I want from my life within this company, or through the vehicle that they call this company. So I think I'm going to hang around, because the puzzle that I've built for myself, the future outlook, or the nirvana, or the comfort, peace, and freedom, the picture I have for myself, I can see that developing by working with this company. Not only that, but he or she has given me the freedom to run my department the way I want to run it. And I'm responsible for the costs, I'm responsible for the budgets, I'm responsible for the profits. And when I do well, he or she will share some of that with me. because it's money they never had before. I mean, it's easy to share money that you've never had before, right? So that's what we do. We set levels for performance within the company. And then if we go beyond that, we share that newfound revenue with people within the company. And what that does is it allows them to control their own income, their own destiny, and therefore create a life that they want for themselves, even though they're working for you. And they can be entrepreneurial in thinking and in mind and in spirit within the department that is in your company. So, I always say this: I can't get what I want, nor can my company get what it wants or needs until all of you get what you want first. And that's very true, because it's a linear process. It's a linear process. There's input and there's output, and I'm usually on the output side, okay, at the end. So it's really neat to watch people think and act and spend and save and do all these things on their own, and yet within your company, because you get to see a lot of people building their life that way, and that's where the word entrepreneurial comes from.
Wow. So I have two follow-up questions to that, and the first one would be directed, I guess, towards you as the company owner, and that is, how do you build that culture?
Well, first off, I got a little lucky because I'm in a business that's really dirty, and it's loud, and it's noisy, and it's hard work. We're using jackhammers, and we're using mixing concrete and gravel and water and all. I mean, it's a tough business. So very early on, I had to make it really cool to work here, or else I wasn't going to have anybody. Okay, so the culture is everything. Things like music and color and energy and celebration and acknowledgement and milestone, and obviously financial reward, and nutrition and health and just caring. Okay, knowing that your future is as important to me as it is to you. Those are the kinds of things that you do, music and sound and everything, to where you can create a really cool culture within your company that people go, wow, they walk in the door and they're like, yeah, this is kind of cool. I think I'll hang out here, right? Instead of, walking into your foyer and it looks like a funeral home, you know what I mean? Where,
Yeah.
It's like, why am I here? So you start with that culture first, and then you just ask them, why are you here? What's your future look like? How can I help you make that happen? Let's pick out a few things and work on them right now. Step 1, today. And you start to get that kind of independent feeling, independent thinking, and yet connected and loyal. And it's just a winning recipe, man. I got to tell you, for all those guys and gals out there that think, I boss, you employee, you know what I mean? That may have worked 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, but that doesn't work anymore today. People have so much information, and they're all too happy to say, hey, man, what's in it for me to work here? And if you can answer that question, you got something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that too, because basically what you're saying is all you have to do is care about your people and ask, what do you want? What can I, as a business owner, give you to keep you around? And all you are basically doing is just caring for them. How can I help you achieve your goals?
When you start asking them that question in an interview, it's tough, because you're going to get the standard answer. Why are you here? Well, I need a job. Okay, a job for what? Well, so I can make money. Okay, money for what? Well, I got bills to pay. Okay, let's keep going. Let's assume that we got past all that, and now you're thinking about what you're going to spend your extra money on. Okay, what could that look like for you? You start asking questions like that, and they look back at you like, oh my gosh, no one's ever asked me that before. No one's ever cared for me that deeply before. And I just think that's the magic right there, because once you tell them and you convince them through your actions and your deeds and your culture and everything else that you really do care about what they're doing going forward, you got a winner there. And all you got to do is build one of those people at a time. And you'll end up with exactly what you want, which is a really smooth running company that hits its goals and does things that you didn't even expect it could do.
Yeah. So then I guess my next question is basically you're saying, just to sum all that up, it's a top-down approach. You are the owner, and you have to sit here and you have to start with yourself and say, what can I do for you? And then they answer, and then it's up to you to achieve whatever it is that they are asking for and help them achieve their own personal goals. Give them the resources, I guess I should say, to chase after that. But ultimately, how do you get that guy that's, just, I'm just here for a paycheck, a guy that, I work in the asphalt business, so let's say you get a guy that he's just hired to flag traffic and work on a paving crew. How do you inspire him to develop that entrepreneurial mindset that is driving him to something more?
Most interviews go like this. Okay, you want a job. Well, this is what the job entails, and this is what you have to wear, and this is the hours that you have to work, and this is what I'm going to have you do. And you can go over there and fill out the paperwork, and then you can talk to that guy, and he'll tell you how. I mean, there's just nothing. Yeah. Okay? You have to find something that person wants. And I guarantee you, nobody is just standing on the street for no reason. I mean, everybody has at least some reason that they have, whether it's a hobby that you don't even know that they love to do, yeah, or it's maybe it's one of their children, or maybe it's a child that they're trying to take care of, or whatever it might be. They're taking care of one of their elderly parents, or whatever. You just have to have the conversations where you say, what can I do? Why are you here? What do you want out of this? Because I can help you get more of that, okay? And you just got to get through it. Now, again, is everyone gonna say, wow, you know what, I'll do that. Let's jump in and go. No. But if you can find as many as you can, I mean, we've got 200 people here. The lion's share of them know what I'm all about. The lion's share of them get involved in what we're doing, some to a major degree, some to a minor degree. But if you don't know that we care about your future around here, you haven't been paying attention. So you just really need to figure out what you can break through to get into that person's head and figure out what they really want. I
gotcha. Just care about people. Just care about them, and they'll care about you most of the time. Not everybody, obviously. So what kind of do you have a hiring problem? I mean, it sounds like you take really good care of your people, and word of mouth, at least in where I work, spreads very quickly for a good company.
Yeah, I would say this. I would say, every company goes through their challenges, but I will tell you this. We have less turnover than probably most any company out there. And the reason is we try to create this really cool culture. Now, anyone can do this. I don't have any magic bullet. I don't have any, people say, oh, well, you're lucky. You're that entrepreneur guy. Okay. Here's a piece of paper and some crayons. Draw entrepreneur for me. Okay? You can't, because it's a vague term. It doesn't even mean anything on its own. Well, you're an entrepreneur at what? Okay, well, now that makes sense. But yeah, anybody can do this, because just remember, you only have yourself and so many hours in a day and so many hours in the week. Every time you create an entrepreneur employee, you've given back some of those hours, you've given back some of those days, to where you can now say, okay, good. Now I don't have to do that part anymore. I can do this, and then you find, now I don't have to do that part anymore, and pretty soon you're kind of making yourself irrelevant to the company, which should be everybody's goal. Yeah. Because then you can fly above it, look back down on it, and say, ooh, I need to check in there, I need to sharpen that up, I need to do this or do that. But it's at your choice, and it's at your option. And oh, by the way, how about growth? Because if you have time to think, you'll have time to grow your company, which is ultimately what we all want to do.
Yeah. So was that ever a struggle for you as far as giving up some of that control as an owner? Because I know in the construction industry, a lot of guys have that mentality of, well, I can do it faster myself. I'd rather not teach this guy. And then some of them keep that mentality their whole lives, and some of them eventually realize, I need to step back, teach other people, and let them run that part.
So while you're reading the book, you're going to run into a chapter that has something in it called the death clock. And
I just read that chapter.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
So when someone gives you a gift like that, and I say gift in parentheses, right? um, you begin to realize how valuable each hour is in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone gives you a gift like that smacks you in the face and says, wow, I need to be spending every moment of my day, every hour of my day doing something consequential and not waste time and not, take it all on myself. Yeah, that that will change most people's hearts and minds when they read that chapter, because there's a calculation in there that you can do yourself to figure out how many hours and days and minutes and seconds you have left. And I encourage everybody to do it because it's pretty sobering, especially as you watch this clock unwind your life right in front of you to the point of, wow, I really need to take another look at this.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that is true. After I read that chapter, I was like, I almost want to get one of those just for like a week, just to like
Right.
really get my ass in gear.
Yeah, you don't want it any more than a couple of weeks tops. I can
Yeah.
guarantee you that.
Yeah. And for the listeners, the death clock is a clock that, based off of your average lifespan and how old you are right now, it basically counts down how many days you have left. Very morbid.
Very morbid, but very, very educational at the same time.
Yeah. So I have to ask, what were some of your, early on, whenever you started figuring all this out, what were your biggest goals and motives for, I want to achieve comfort, peace, and freedom? What kept your clock ticking, basically?
Well, there was things that I liked. So, for example, ditch digging was probably number 99 on a list of 100 things that I ever thought I would end up doing. Okay, I wanted to be a race car. I wanted to be Richard Petty. I wanted to be a race car driver. So, but what I figured out was, if I was successful enough, I could still whet that appetite and be a weekend warrior doing that, which I do. I mean,
Nice.
I now have a collection of cars, and I take them and run them around the track with my buddies, and it's kind of like weekend warrior NASCAR, and we have an absolute blast. We rent this track and we have fun, and we kind of do that. So it can lead you to those other types of things. So I've always loved golf, I've always loved boating, and I've always loved cars. I get my fill of each one of those.
Three very expensive sports, too.
Well, you're right, and they're time consuming, but I've done it in a way that is in my frame. I'm not buying mega yachts. I have what I want in my boat. I have what I want in my cars and what I want in my golf game, and where I choose to play it. So that was kind of my level. That was kind of my place for my time off. And again, you have to fill your buckets really evenly. Okay, you have to fill your buckets with your faith and your family and yourself and your health and your sport and your hobby, and you have to fill all that stuff equally. And having a lot of people around you that help you run the company and win in themselves for doing it can certainly support you in doing the things you want.
Yeah. So just to go on a minor tangent, what kind of cars do you race?
Well, I have a Mustang GT500 Super Snake, which is I sent it to Carroll Shelby, and they tricked it all out, and it's got like 850 horsepower in it, and it's just crazy. I've got a little a Cobra AC Shelby Cobra, one of those old-fashioned little two-seaters.
Nice.
With a 427 big block in it, and it's just awesome. And I've got a 911 convertible, and a couple other things that we're working on. So it's
That's
fun.
really awesome, dude. I love racing. I'm kind of a car nerd, but I've always been a big Formula One fan. And
Oh my gosh, you obviously watch Drive to Survive, then, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best it's the best docuseries I've seen in a long time. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a little behind. I think I'm a season or two behind, but it's a good show. I like going to the races whenever they're in Austin. They're always my wife's parents always volunteer to be flag marshals, which means we get free seats. So it's always
Nice.
It's always a great time to go.
I think we're going to go check it out in Vegas this year when they come in November. So
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I probably won't go to that one, but we're gonna try and go to Austin again. But that'll be cool,
Excellent.
man. Inaugural race in Vegas.
Yeah.
Anyways, another thing you kind of hit on too, and this is something we talk about at Dirty and Driven. So our big thing is gain, train, retain, but our kind of purpose is bring people to the blue collar world, teach them how to kick ass. And I want to do that in all aspects of life, whether it be financial, just personal goals, things you're talking about, but also health and wellness. And that is something we talk about fairly often on the show, and that's something that I heard you hit on. So from a blue-collar perspective, why should somebody who is in the blue-collar industry take their health and wellness seriously?
Okay, so great question. I would tell you that 30, 40 years ago, you didn't have the options that you have today, okay? What we know about diet, what we know about nutrition, what we know about supplements, what we now know about things like peptides and biologics and exosomes and stem cells. I'm involved in a lot of that stuff, and I got to tell you, it's crazy how you can repair yourself, prevent yourself from getting injured and whatnot. I mean, everybody loves to cut open joints after they're broken, elbows and knees and shoulders. Well, what if you could prolong those things and in some cases help repair those things without going under the knife by just taking what your body already produces and synthesizing it and putting it back in, right? So there are so many things now. And imagine if let's assume you're a guy who builds. You're a stonemason and you're building, outdoor kitchens and fences and, beautiful patios and whatever. And you're 53. Well, you're thinking, man, I'm beat up. I hurt. It's getting harder to do this. But what if you all of a sudden, you took the right path to all these things and now you're just kicking ass and you're 63. I mean, that's 10 more years of earning power. Most people don't retire because they have or they really want to. They retire because they have to in some of those businesses. Mm-hmm. And I've seen even guys in my own house doing remodeling that were doing floor tile. They're thinking about, I got to get this knee replaced or I got to do this or that. And if you look at the injuries they have, they're preventable. And again, you didn't have these options in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, but now you do. They're becoming more and more popular, and I'm super excited because, I want to go out. I'm in my upper 50s. I want to go out and swing my golf club as hard as I can, and I do. And it's because I've done a lot of these things to take care of joints that aren't broken yet, but they're getting older, right? Mm-hmm. So I've prolonged a lot of things through the use of these types of treatments, and I highly recommend that people out there, even if you have a little soreness in your knee or in your shoulder or whatever, do not wait till it breaks. Go seek out one of these proactive treatments, and you're going to be so glad you did.
Yeah, and something I tell our people a lot, and even this last Monday, is you work with your body. Your body is how you make money. And most of these guys, that is all they know is just blue-collar physical labor. And that's all they've ever known. And they can't transition necessarily at the point in life they're at if something were to just go majorly wrong with them. And so I tell them, and I tell the young guys especially, start taking care of yourself now. Because, yeah, you might be 25 years old right now, and you think you're fine, but sometimes poor form, doing certain things repetitively without changing up the way you do it, could very well lead to injuries early on, and you don't want that.
Well, basically our bodies are just electrical and plumbing, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we are.
Never thought of it like that. I like that.
If you decide to throw garbage down your sink, your mouth is a sink. If you decide to throw garbage constantly down your mouth into your body, which is basically plumbing, it's going to extract whatever that garbage is, okay? It's going to absorb whatever that garbage is. So, if you're just plumbing, why are you putting things through your plumbing that are negative to the plumbing system, okay? Negative to the electrical system, negative to the muscular system. I just now it doesn't mean you can't go out, on a weekend and do what you want to do for a day or maybe a day and a half. But during the week, why wouldn't you fuel your race car up with 105 octane, instead of 87, if you had the opportunity to? Because feeling better is all of it. I cringe at seeing someone who has aged way quicker than they should have just because of the way they treated themselves. Forgetting about the work, but what they put in, what they drank, what they ate, what they smoked. I mean, there's no reason to do that with the knowledge that we have now. And even the convenience of things. I mean, you can drive past a fast food place and you can drive past a health fast food place in the same spot nowadays. So, I encourage people to take a good look at that, and I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I was talking to Sal Frisilla, who is the president of First Form, which is a supplement company, and that was one thing he mentioned to me. He goes, yeah, a lot of blue collar people, I talk to them and they say, well, I work out every single day. It's just my job. It's a physical job. And he goes, well, yeah, that might be so, but you're not getting anything out of that if you're just shoveling garbage in your mouth, which is what a lot of people in this industry do.
He's exactly right. And again, I wish there were a lot more, as many healthy fast food choices as there are unhealthy fast food choices, and they're starting to show up. But you can certainly figure out a way, if you really want to take care of yourself. And again, I think it behooves everyone to say, okay, what is an extra 10 years of income worth to me? If I'm making six figures operating machinery or whatever I'm doing, an extra 10 years is an extra $1 million. You certainly have to look at that, because you only got one shot at life. And when you're 65 or 70, I'm sure you'd rather have that extra $1 million if you're going to retire, right?
Yeah. Oh, I never even thought of it that way either. Just look at extra 10 years, $100,000 a year, $1 million.
Yeah.
There you go. That's how much it's worth to you to take care of your body and make it convenient. I mean, you can take steps before work, after work, to make things convenient for you as well.
Well, not only that, but if you have a family, let's say you have you and your wife and a couple kids, right? You have to tell those people that, and now your wife could work too, and that's fine. I get it. You're working out there to support this family. You're like the quarterback of this team. In most football teams, there's a whole group of people that support them in the locker room, on the sidelines, nutritionally, whatever. So rely on your family to keep you very healthy, and have them help you kick off your day with good food to start with and good food for lunch, and have them understand that you're only as good as your ability to execute for them. And if they can help you be healthy, wealthy, and wise, that would be a good start.
Yeah, love that. That's amazing. So is there any other things that you would just recommend to blue-collar people? I think we've hammered on a lot of things. Just, I mean, ultimately, the whole conversation is simplify any goal you have and take care of yourself, whether that be financially, whether that be just goal setting, or whether that be in your health and wellness. Take care of yourself and simplify it. Is there anything else that you'd see, any other topics that you'd see that you would like to see blue-collar people consider?
Well, yeah, and I'm going to get a little bit selfish here for a second, but that's okay. So I think a lot of times when people listen or read books, they tend to become trophies if they're not acted upon. Okay, it's great to have a bunch of books on the shelf, but if those things haven't changed your life in some way, then what have you really gained, right? So I built this course that follows the book. It's 8 sessions. It's 45 minutes a session. You could do it in 8 weeks. You could do it in 8 days. You could do it in a weekend, okay? But what it does is it takes the book and it forces you to actually take action from the book. Like the minute you put the book down, I'm taking action to improve my life. Now, before anyone gets crazy out there, I've seen courses for $700, $1,200, $1,500. No. My life was really good before I wrote this book. I've been very blessed. I've been very successful. It's my turn to give back. I believe it's incumbent upon all of us who are successful to give back to others to help shorten the learning curve to their entrepreneurial path. So I price this thing at $129. It's like the price of 3 movie nights, okay? Yeah. And you get the course, you get the $25 book, but you also get a course and a book to donate to somebody else. Oh, wow. So it's basically like $60. It will change your life. And the only reason I say that is because the people that have taken it so far have said, wow, I think totally different now than how I used to think. And for $60, I think it's probably worth it. So I would say that whether it's my course or anybody else's course, find a way to think differently than you do today, because you're going to be so glad you did. And, to invest $60 in your future, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I certainly hope that people take advantage of it. And you can certainly go and find out how I do that. It's at kenrusk.com. Awesome. And you can buy the book or buy the course or buy them both. And I hope people take advantage of it, because if you choose to help yourself, you're going to be helping somebody else in the process, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do that. I, for one, love investing and stuff like that, because I'm not really. I've never bought a lot of courses because there's so much just bullshit out there, frankly. But
there is.
Whenever I know that it's a solid product, and I've read most of the book, and I know it's a solid book, and the concepts are solid, and I've got an entrepreneur mindset. I am in the process of starting my own business, and I will absolutely be taking that, because I know that $60 or $130, however you look at it, is less than a weekend out, really, if you go to dinner, if you go drink, anything like that.
Right.
But the investment is probably going to be tenfold, so I will certainly be doing that, and I will definitely talk about some of the things that I gain on future episodes to all the listeners out there, but yeah, I look forward to checking that out.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on embarking on your own business. I'd love to follow you and see how you're moving along with it. It's kind of what I live for, to see people take that path and rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have 2 questions I always ask everybody before we wrap a show up, and the first one is, even though we just spent a moment ragging on fast food and all that, the construction industry staple has always been the gas station. So I'm sure you're not necessarily eating out of gas stations all the time, but if you were, what would be your go-to grab in there?
I'd probably have to go grab some of those macro bars, because they're the cleanest bar on the market, and I've eaten every one of them. And get yourself a good bottle of almond milk, or even some good chocolate milk, because that's a really good rehydrator, and it has a lot of good, potassium, magnesium, and all that stuff in it. Mm-hmm. Get yourself some of those macro bars. It's 200 calories. It's got 20 grams protein. You'll be happy that you did, and then you can go home and pound out on whatever you want to do then.
Is that a brand, Macro Bar?
Yeah.
Heard of that. Huh.
Yeah, they're great. Look them up.
Oh, cool. I'll check them out. And then, what is the dirtiest job you have ever had to do? I'm sure you've probably been in some nasty basements, but what would you say the dirtiest job you've done is?
When you tell somebody upstairs that you're working in the basement, and you tell them that you can't use the bathrooms for the next 3 hours because we are reworking the plumbing, because they used to have combination storm and sanitary sewers in the same system, which why they ever did that, I don't know, but they're now splitting those out. And you're sitting there working in a trench, and someone decides to go to the bathroom and flush it, and it ends up in your lap. That's the dirty job.
Oh, you gotta love it. Doesn't matter how much you tell them, they just don't care.
Right. Yeah.
It's just crazy that people don't realize that shit has to go somewhere.
Literally. You're right.
That's insane. Golly. Some people, man. They just think it disappears, I think.
They do. They just goes down that hole, and I don't care where it goes after that. It's funny.
Hey, please don't use the bathroom. You might end up doing that to me. Yeah.
Right.
Crazy. All right. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Ken. I really appreciate your time, and I can't wait to get this one out.
Yeah, me as well. It was really fun. I really, really appreciate it. Maybe we'll talk again soon after this. That was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Where can people follow you on social media?
All my socials are at Ken Rusk Official.
Okay.
And, and again, they can go on, if they have Fox Nation, they can go see my interview there with Tucker Carlson. I've been on Fox and Friends. I've been on with Dana Perino, and I've had some pretty good exposure there. So you can kind of see what we're up to there. I've got a lot of videos on TikTok, which are kind of self-help videos, and on Instagram as well. So
cool. All right. Well, be sure to follow that, guys, and follow us at Dirty and Driven. All right. See y'all.